Today, I want to take you on a journey that will completely transform the way you learn English. And I want to begin by asking you a simple question. Have you ever spent hours studying a new English phrase, only to forget it the next day? Or listened to an English podcast, felt confident for a moment, and then suddenly realized that nothing stayed in your memory? If that sounds familiar, stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I am going to reveal something powerful, a way to study English once and remember it forever. Yes, truly remember it. And it all starts with how your brain listens, absorbs, and stores language. Before we dive in, I want you to imagine this. Imagine learning English without fear of forgetting. Imagine listening to a podcast and feeling the language stay with you naturally, like a song you can't get out of your head. Imagine understanding English through stories, simple explanations, and real-life examples that feel effortless. That is exactly what this episode will help you do. Welcome to MindFlow English. I am Amelia, and today, I will guide you through an English learning method that works for beginners, for busy learners, and for anyone who wants to study smarter, not harder. This episode is part of our Easy English podcast series, where you learn English effortlessly just by listening. You do not need a textbook. You do not need to memorize long rules. You simply listen, understand, and let the language sink in, step by step. To begin our journey today, I want to share something strange about your brain. Most people think they remember things because they repeat them again and again. But the truth is different. The brain remembers what it understands, what it feels, and what it connects with meaning. You remember stories, you remember images, you remember emotions, you remember anything that feels alive. But when you study English by repeating words without context, without emotion, and without connection, your brain has no reason to hold on to the information, so it lets it go. This is why many learners feel frustrated. They study a word 20 times, but the brain still deletes it. Not because you are bad at English, not because you are slow, but because the method was wrong. And today, we fix that. I will show you how to study English in a way that makes your brain excited to remember. A way that uses natural memory, not forced memory. And to make this simple and powerful, we will use a combination of storytelling, emotional connection, and strategic repetition inside real-life examples. This method is used by top English learners around the world, and today we will apply it to you. Before we begin our lesson, I want you to think of English like water. Water flows, water moves. Water doesn't stay in one place unless the environment helps it stay. The same is true with language. When English flows into your mind naturally, your brain collects it easily. But when learning feels heavy, stressful, or boring, your brain pushes the information away. So today, I want to make English flow for you, smooth, light, natural, and unforgettable. In this episode, we will learn 3 things. First, we will learn how your brain naturally remembers new English vocabulary. Second, you will hear a short, simple story designed to help you remember new English phrases automatically. And third, we will practice these phrases with easy podcast-style repetition so they stay in your long-term memory. Today's lesson uses simple language. No complicated grammar, no difficult vocabulary, just English that anyone can understand, even complete beginners. By the end, you will learn a small collection of phrases that you will truly remember. And more importantly, you will understand the process behind remembering. This process will help you learn faster in every English lesson from now on. Before I tell you the story, I want to give you one secret. The key to remembering English forever is not studying more, it is studying deeper. You do not need more hours, you need more clarity, more connection, and more meaning. When a word connects to something emotional or interesting, the memory becomes strong. When a phrase appears in a story, your brain stores it like a movie scene. And when you repeat the phrase in different contexts, your brain confirms that the information is important. This is how language becomes permanent. So let me give you a small example. Imagine the phrase, take a moment. Many English learners memorize the phrase mechanically. But today I want you to feel the phrase. Take a moment means pause for a short time. But it also carries a sense of peace, a break, a breath. Now imagine you are sitting in a quiet room. You place your phone down. You close your eyes. And you take a moment. Suddenly, the phrase is not just a phrase. It is an experience. Your brain stores it differently. And now, every time you hear or say, take a moment, you feel it. You do not forget it. Your memory becomes emotional, not mechanical. And that is exactly how we will learn today. Through experience, through understanding, through connection. Now let us begin with a simple preparation exercise. I want you to relax your shoulders, breathe normally, and imagine that English is entering your mind the way sunlight enters a room. Gently, naturally, without pressure. When your mind is relaxed, learning becomes faster and easier. And now you are ready to begin the story. This story is designed for beginners. It includes simple vocabulary, slow pacing, and clear meaning. As you listen, do not try to memorize. Just follow the story, feel it. This is the first step to learning once and remembering forever. Here is the beginning of your story. Yesterday morning, a young woman named Lila woke up earlier than usual. Her room was quiet, and sunlight was shining through the window. She sat up slowly, took a moment, and whispered to herself, "Today I want to learn something new." She felt calm. She felt ready. She made herself a cup of warm tea and walked to her small desk by the window. She opened her notebook and placed her pen gently on the first page. She did not know what she was going to learn, but she felt excited. She felt curious. And she felt something else. She felt that today would be different. This is where we will pause the story for now. In the next part, we will continue the story, learn new phrases, and understand how they stay in your memory forever. Lila sat at her desk, looking at the blank page in her notebook. The page was empty, but she did not feel stressed. Instead, she felt open, ready. She lifted her pen and wrote one simple sentence at the top of the page. "I want to remember what I learn." As she wrote the words, something inside her shifted. It was as if she had made a promise to herself, a promise to learn with purpose, not pressure. Before she began studying, Lila did something unusual. She closed her eyes again and whispered, "Take a moment." And she allowed herself to breathe slowly. She did not rush. She did not force herself to start quickly. She simply created a quiet space inside her mind. And in that quiet space, her thoughts became clear. This is the moment when real learning begins. Not when your book opens, not when your teacher speaks, but when your mind becomes calm enough to receive new information. Now, I want you to think about this as you listen. When you study English, do you jump in quickly, trying to memorize everything at once? Or do you slow down, breathe, and let your brain prepare itself? Because if you want to study once and remember forever, you must prepare your mind the way Lila did. A quiet mind learns more in 5 minutes than a stressed mind learns in 1 hour. This is your first memory principle. Lila placed her hand on her notebook and looked around her room. She noticed small details she never paid attention to before. The soft sound of the wind touching the curtains, the warm smell of tea, the gentle light on her desk. Everything felt calm and simple. And then she whispered a phrase that would guide her whole day. Stay present. Stay present means stay here, in this moment. Not thinking about yesterday, not worrying about tomorrow, just learning one moment at a time. When you stay present, your brain absorbs English more deeply. It listens better. It remembers longer. So today, you will practice this phrase with me. Repeat in your mind, stay present. Again, stay present. Let the words feel slow and peaceful. This is how we build emotional memory, the type of memory that lasts. Now, let's continue Lila's story. After writing her first sentence, Lila decided to listen to a short English podcast. She put on her headphones and chose an episode called Small Changes Create Big Results. The host had a calm voice and spoke slowly. The first words of the podcast were, "Learning starts with awareness." When Lila heard this, she smiled. Something about the message felt right. She felt as if the universe was giving her a gentle reminder. Pay attention to the small things. They will help you learn more than you think. The podcast continued, and Lila listened carefully. The host explained that when people learn a new language, they often chase difficult words. They want advanced vocabulary, complex expressions, big, impressive phrases. But in reality, the brain does not remember complexity. The brain remembers clarity, simplicity, emotion. So the host encouraged listeners to focus on simple phrases first, to repeat them in different situations, to feel them, not just memorize them. This idea stayed in Lila's mind. She paused the podcast and repeated softly, "Simple first, simple first." The words felt comforting, almost like advice from a friend. She wrote the phrase in her notebook, circling it gently. This became her second principle of the day. Start simple. Now, let's pause for a moment. I want you to practice the same principle. Listen to this simple phrase, "I am learning." You may think it's too basic, but this phrase is powerful. Say it slowly in your mind. I am learning. Feel the meaning. Feel the progress. When you connect emotionally with even the simplest phrases, you build strong memory roots. These roots will support all the advanced language you learn later. Back to our story. After writing her new phrase, Lila continued playing the podcast. The host then said something that caught her attention immediately. If you want to remember forever, create meaning. Lila repeated the phrase out loud. Create meaning. It felt like a key, a door, a truth. She realized that every time she studied English without meaning, she forgot. But when something felt meaningful, memorable, or emotional, she kept it in her mind naturally. She paused the podcast again and looked at her notebook. She wrote "create meaning" in bigger letters this time, as if she wanted the idea to fill the page. She thought about it for a moment. What does create meaning really mean? And then she understood. Meaning is connection. When you connect a word to a story, a memory, a feeling, or a picture in your mind, you give the word life. And when a word feels alive, Your brain keeps it. So let's practice this together. The phrase we learned earlier, take a moment, becomes stronger if you connect it to something real. Think of the last time you slowed down, maybe after a long day or a stressful moment. Imagine yourself pausing, breathing, relaxing. Now say the phrase in your mind. Take a moment, you see. The phrase now has meaning, so your brain will not forget it easily. Now let's return to Lila. After listening to the podcast, Lila felt inspired. She placed her pen on the notebook again and wrote a third sentence. I learn better when I feel calm. As she wrote it, she felt something shift inside her again. She realized that English was not just a subject, it was an experience, a feeling, a relationship, and she wanted that relationship to feel peaceful and natural. The sunlight grew brighter in her room, and she took another sip of tea. She decided to continue the podcast, and the host introduced a new concept called intentional listening. Intentional listening means listening with purpose, not passively. It means noticing patterns, repeating useful phrases, and allowing the sounds of English to become familiar. The host explained that intentional listening is one of the strongest ways to build long-term memory because it activates multiple parts of the brain at the same time. Lila liked this concept. She felt that it matched her calm, focused mood. She whispered the phrase, intentional listening, and wrote it in her notebook. She was building a collection of principles that would help her remember forever, and you are learning them with her. In the next part, we will continue Lila's story, explore intentional listening, and learn more phrases that stay in your memory naturally. Lila placed her headphones more comfortably over her ears and leaned back in her chair. She felt ready for the next part of her learning journey. The idea of intentional listening stayed in her thoughts. It felt important. It felt powerful. She pressed play, and the podcast continued with a calm, steady rhythm. The host said, when you listen intentionally, you train your mind to search for meaning, not just sounds. And when your mind searches for meaning, it remembers. Lila repeated the phrase in her mind, search for meaning. She let the words echo softly in her thoughts. She wrote them in her notebook, but this time, she added a small note under them. My brain remembers what matters. This made her feel confident. She felt that she was finally learning how her memory worked, not just how English worked. As she continued listening, the host shared a simple exercise. Choose one phrase from this podcast. Repeat it 3 times. Picture a scene that matches the phrase, and then use it in a sentence. Lila paused the audio immediately. She wanted to try. She chose the phrase, stay present, one she had learned earlier. She closed her eyes and repeated it 3 times. Stay present, stay present, stay present. Then she pictured herself sitting at her desk, drinking warm tea, feeling calm. This image made the phrase feel more alive. Finally, she whispered a sentence. I stay present when I learn. She felt something click inside her mind. She knew the phrase would stay with her. Now, let us practice this together. Choose the phrase you like best so far. It can be, take a moment, stay present, simple first, create meaning, or search for meaning. Repeat it in your mind 3 times. Then, imagine a picture connected to the phrase. Finally, create a simple sentence. Do not worry about perfection. Focus on connection. This is the path to deep memory, the type of memory that lasts a lifetime. Back to our story. Lila pressed play again. The host spoke about one more important idea: emotional anchors. Emotional anchors are feelings or moments that help you remember new information. When you connect a new English phrase to a personal emotion, your brain marks it as important. For example, if you learn the phrase, "take it slow," during a peaceful moment, your brain will store the phrase with that emotion. Next time you hear it, you feel that emotion again. This is how memory becomes automatic. Lila loved this idea. She whispered emotional anchors to herself. She wrote the phrase slowly on her page and drew a small line next to it, where she wrote calm, peaceful, hopeful. These were the emotions she felt today, and she wanted her English learning to stay connected to those feelings. Suddenly, she realized something important about her past. Many times, she tried to study when she was stressed or distracted. She memorized lists of words without connection or meaning, and her brain always forgot them quickly. But now, with emotional anchors, everything felt different. She felt connected, she felt aware, she felt alive. And these feelings helped her learn better. The host continued, saying, "If you want English to stay in your mind, learn when your emotions are open, not closed. When you feel curious, calm, or inspired, your brain becomes ready to learn deeply." Lila nodded slowly, as if she were having a real conversation with the host. She understood now why learning suddenly felt easy. Her emotions were open, and her mind was ready. Now, I want you to take a moment and ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Are you calm, focused, curious? Whatever the emotion is, connect it to the phrases you are learning. Let your feelings become part of your memory. When your emotions join the learning process, everything becomes easier. Back in her room, Lila continued listening. The host introduced another concept called natural repetition. Natural repetition is not forced memorization. It is not repeating a phrase 20 times in a row. Instead, natural repetition happens when a phrase appears in different contexts, at different moments, and through different stories. This repetition feels natural, effortless, and human, and the brain loves it. Lila repeated the words, "natural repetition," and wrote them down. She liked how gentle they sounded. She remembered the times she forced herself to memorize something. It never worked, but now, with natural repetition, she understood that learning could feel simple and enjoyable. Now, you will practice natural repetition with me. Listen to these phrases again, but do not repeat them mechanically. Just listen and let them float into your mind. Stay present. Take a moment. Simple first. Create meaning. Search for meaning. Intentional listening. Emotional anchors. Natural repetition. As each phrase enters your mind, let it connect to a picture, a feeling, or a memory. This is how you build long-lasting understanding. Let us return to Lila's story. As the podcast continued, the host said something that made her sit up straight. When you learn something deeply, you do not just understand it, you become it. The words sounded mysterious, but meaningful. She repeated them in her mind. You become it. What did this mean? She thought about it. When she practiced staying present, she was not only learning the phrase, she was living it. When she created meaning in her sentences, she was becoming a meaningful learner. When she listened intentionally, she was becoming a mindful listener. And when she felt calm and focused, she was becoming a better version of herself. Suddenly, she smiled. English was not just a language she wanted to learn. It was a way to grow, to understand herself, and to become more aware. Learning English was becoming part of who she was, not just something she studied. This realization made her heart feel warm. The podcast began to slow down, moving toward a gentle conclusion. The host said, "Remember, learning is not about speed. It is about depth. Take your time. Feel the language. Let it stay with you." And Lila felt these words deeply. They were simple, but they were powerful. She felt as if she had found a new path, a new way to learn, a new way to remember. She paused the podcast and placed her pen down. She looked at her notebook, filled with phrases, ideas, and emotions. She felt proud, she felt peaceful, and she felt ready for more. In the next part, we will follow Lila as she begins to use her new English phrases in real-life situations, building confidence and long-term memory through action. The next morning, sunlight filled Lila's room once again. She woke up feeling refreshed, calm, and ready to continue her new style of learning. But today was different. Today she wanted to use the phrases she had learned, not just listen to them. She believed that if she used English in real situations, even small ones, her memory would grow stronger. She sat at her desk, opened her notebook, and reviewed the principles she had written the day before. Stay present. Take a moment. Simple first. Create meaning. Search for meaning. Intentional listening. Emotional anchors. Natural repetition. Each phrase looked familiar now, almost like an old friend. She smiled softly. These words were a part of her now. She whispered to herself, "Today, I will use what I learn." The decision felt powerful. She knew that learning becomes real only when you apply it. She took a deep breath, allowing her mind to settle into a quiet rhythm. Then she stood up, walked to the kitchen, and prepared her usual morning tea. But this time she paid close attention to everything around her. The sound of boiling water, the soft steam rising, the warmth in her hands as she held the cup. She whispered, "Stay present," and she felt the phrase connect perfectly with the moment. After breakfast, she sat down again and opened a simple English learning app on her phone. The app gave short practice sentences and basic listening exercises. In the past, she used to rush through them, trying to finish as fast as possible. Today, she decided to apply her new principles. She chose the first sentence that appeared on the screen. "I am ready to learn." She read it slowly. She whispered it. She pictured herself at her desk, notebook open, calm and focused. She felt the phrase become real. Then she said the sentence out loud, softly but confidently. "I am ready to learn." This small action made her feel strong. She realized that using English does not always mean long conversations or difficult vocabulary. Sometimes, using English simply means speaking one simple sentence with meaning. Next, she opened a short listening clip in the app. It was an easy English podcast for beginners. The speaker said, "Take your time, listen carefully." Lila smiled. She had learned this principle already. She listened intentionally, focusing on the rhythm of each phrase. She repeated the sentences silently in her mind. She allowed her imagination to build small scenes for each expression. This made her learning feel alive. After the listening exercise, Lila decided to practice speaking with herself. She looked at her reflection in a small mirror on her desk and said, "Take a moment." She breathed in. Then she said, "Stay present." She smiled again. She said, "I am learning." She felt her confidence growing with every sentence. She was not perfect, She did not need to be. She was present, and that was enough. Later in the afternoon, Lila decided to take a walk outside. The weather was warm and gentle. The sky was clear. As she walked down the quiet street, she continued practicing simple English sentences in her mind. She used the world around her to create meaning. When she saw a tree, she said, "The tree is beautiful." When she felt the wind, she whispered, "The wind feels soft." When she passed by a small cafe, she thought, "I want to learn more today." Everything became a learning moment. Everything became part of her English practice. As she walked, she remembered something from the podcast. Learning is not about speed. It is about depth. She repeated the sentence mentally, letting it sink deeply into her memory. She realized that this simple walk was teaching her more than hours of stress-filled study ever did. After her walk, she returned home feeling peaceful and motivated. She decided to try a new exercise. She opened her notebook and wrote 3 simple sentences describing her day. She wanted to use her new phrases again. She wrote, "I stay present when I learn. I take a moment before I begin. I learn better when I feel calm." These sentences felt meaningful. They described her experience honestly. This honesty created emotional anchors, strengthening her memory even more. Then she decided to challenge herself slightly. She added one new sentence, something she had not written before. "I am becoming more confident every day." As she wrote this, she felt encouragement rising inside her. The sentence was simple, but it carried emotion, and emotion makes memory stronger. That evening, she listened to another short English podcast. This one was about habits. The speaker said, "Small actions create big changes." Lila paused the audio and repeated the sentence. She connected it to her day. Today, she had taken small steps. She stayed present. She used simple sentences. She practiced intentional listening. She wrote meaningful sentences. These were small actions, but they filled her with confidence. She realized that learning English is not about giant moments. It is about tiny, continuous steps done with awareness. And those steps create progress that lasts. She took her notebook again and wrote the new phrase, "Small actions create big changes." She underlined it gently. She knew this phrase would guide her future learning. Before going to bed, Lila reviewed all the phrases she learned that day. She did not memorize them. She simply looked at them, felt them, and allowed each one to connect with her experiences. This type of relaxed review strengthened her memory naturally. She closed her notebook and whispered to herself, "I am growing." The words felt comforting and true. As she lay in bed, she reflected on her progress. She realized that even though she had not studied for hours, she remembered everything she learned that day. Why? Because she learned with meaning, emotion, and presence. She had discovered a new way of learning, one that would stay with her forever. In the next part, we will explore how Lila applies her new English learning approach in conversations and daily experiences, moving closer to real fluency through natural repetition and confidence building. The next day began quietly, but inside Lila's mind, something felt different. She felt steady, clear, ready. She made her morning tea, opened her notebook, and whispered her familiar phrase, "Take a moment." She breathed in slowly and allowed her mind to settle. Today, she wanted to take a new step. She wanted to use English, not only with herself, but with another person. Even if it was simple, even if it was short, even if she felt nervous, she knew that real learning grows through real use. She sat at her desk and remembered a message her friend Mia had sent her the night before. Mia was learning English too, but she often felt discouraged. She said, "I feel like I always forget everything I study." Lila smiled softly when she read that message. She understood the feeling. She had felt the same way for years, but now she knew something new, something that could help Mia too. So that morning, Lila decided to send her a short voice message in English. Not perfect English, just simple English, with meaning behind it. She opened her messaging app, clicked the microphone button, took a breath, and began. "Hi Mia, I hope you are doing well. I want to share something with you. Yesterday, I tried a new way of learning English. I stayed present. I took a moment before studying, and I learned slowly, with calm. It helped me remember more. Maybe you can try it too. Small actions create big changes." When she finished recording, she hesitated for a moment. A small doubt passed through her mind. What if my English sounds strange? What if I make a mistake? But she remembered her new principles. Simple first. Create meaning. Emotional anchors. She reminded herself that every mistake was a step toward progress. So she pressed send. Right after sending the message, she felt a wave of confidence. She had used English with another person. She had connected meaning to communication. And she had taken a step toward becoming the kind of learner she wanted to be. An hour later, Mia replied with a smile in her voice. "Lila, thank you. Your message made me feel calm. I will try learning that way too. Your English sounded beautiful and clear." Hearing this made Lila feel warm inside. She realized that using simple English was not a weakness, it was a strength. It made communication natural, honest, and human. Encouraged by this, Lila decided to continue practicing English throughout the day. She thought of another principle from the podcast: natural repetition. She understood now that repetition did not need to feel forced. It could feel natural if it came from real experiences. So she planned a small challenge for herself. She would use English in 3 real-life moments today. Nothing big, nothing stressful, just 3 simple uses of English to grow her confidence. Her first opportunity came during lunch. She was cooking pasta and decided to narrate her actions softly in English. "I boil the water, I add the pasta, I wait patiently." These were simple sentences, but they connected language to real life. She felt herself creating meaning without even trying. She felt her brain absorbing everything gently, without pressure. Her second opportunity came while she was reading a simple English blog about healthy habits. Each time she saw a sentence she liked, she repeated it softly. One sentence stood out: "I choose progress over perfection." She repeated it 3 times. She connected it with her learning journey. Progress over perfection. That phrase felt like a deep truth. She wrote it in her notebook, underlining it with slow intention. It became another emotional anchor. Her third opportunity happened unexpectedly. She received an email from a website she subscribed to. The message was short, simple, and written in English. Normally, she would skip it or ignore it, but today she decided to read it slowly. She practiced intentional reading, noticing each phrase instead of rushing through it. This simple act of reading English in a real context made her feel more comfortable with the language. She realized she was improving. Later in the afternoon, Lila went to a small cafe near her house. She brought her notebook and sat near the window. She took a moment to relax and began reviewing her phrases again. This time, something felt different. The words did not feel like study material anymore. They felt like a part of her daily life. Stay present. Simple first. Take a moment. Search for meaning. Emotional anchors. Progress over perfection. Each phrase carried a memory, a feeling, a connection. She understood each one deeply. Suddenly, she remembered another line from the podcast. When you become aware of your learning becomes stronger. She repeated the line in her mind. Awareness. That was the key. She was not learning English automatically or carelessly. She was learning with awareness, intention, and presence. As she sat in the cafe, sipping her warm drink, she noticed a couple next to her speaking English. Not perfectly, not quickly, but clearly. She listened with curiosity. One of them said, "It is okay. We take our time." Lila smiled. Her heart warmed. She whispered to herself, "I take my time too." Before leaving, she decided to practice speaking aloud again. She went to the small restroom in the cafe, stood in front of the mirror, and said quietly, "I am learning every day. I am growing. I am improving." The words felt honest and powerful. When she returned home that evening, she opened her notebook once more. She wrote a new sentence inspired by her day. I learn English through real life. She paused, read it again, and felt its truth. That sentence became another anchor in her memory. As the sun set outside her window, she reflected on her small challenge. She had used English 3 times. She had spoken, read, listened, and connected. And through these simple actions, she felt her confidence grow naturally. Before going to bed, she whispered one more phrase from the podcast. Learning becomes easier when you enjoy the process. She smiled softly and closed her eyes. In the next part, we will follow Lila as she strengthens her speaking skills, explores real conversation patterns, and continues building long-term memory through meaningful interaction and mindful practice. The following morning arrived with gentle light filtering through Lila's curtains. She woke up feeling more confident than she had in a long time. Something inside her felt steady, as if the small steps she'd taken were quietly building a strong foundation. Today, she wanted to do something even more challenging. She wanted to practice speaking English with a real person in real time, not just through messages or self-talk. She knew she was not perfect. She knew she might make mistakes, but she also knew that progress grows through action, not fear. She sat at her desk, opened her notebook, and reviewed her phrases once again. Stay present. Take a moment. Progress over perfection. Create meaning. Each phrase calmed her nerves and reminded her of the kind of learner she wanted to be. She whispered slowly, "I am ready to try." The words felt brave, even if her voice trembled a little. She remembered that her city had a small community center where people practiced languages together. She had visited once before, but never participated because she felt too shy. Today, she decided to go, not to impress anyone, not to speak perfectly, just to practice. Before leaving home, she prepared herself mentally, using a practice she learned from the podcast. She closed her eyes and practiced intentional breathing. Inhale calm, exhale fear, inhale courage, exhale pressure. She repeated a gentle phrase, "I speak with confidence," even if she did not fully believe it yet. Saying it made her feel stronger. On her way to the community center, she practiced simple sentences in her mind. I can speak slowly. I can express myself. I can learn from mistakes. With each sentence, her worry softened. When she arrived, she saw a small group of people sitting in a circle. They were all learning English too. Some were beginners, some were intermediate learners. Everyone looked focused but relaxed. She took a seat quietly and listened. The group leader, a friendly woman with warm eyes, began the session with an easy prompt. Introduce yourself. Using one simple sentence. No pressure, no rules, just one sentence. Lila felt her heart beat faster. Her turn was coming, but she remembered her phrase. Stay present. She placed her feet firmly on the ground, grounded herself, and waited. When her turn arrived, she took a breath and said, "My name is Lila, and I am learning English every day." The group leader smiled. The other learners nodded. Lila felt a warm sense of accomplishment. It was a simple sentence, but it carried meaning, truth, and courage. As the session continued, the leader introduced a simple conversational activity called phrase expansion. Each person had to take a basic phrase and expand it slowly into a longer sentence. Simple first, build slowly. Lila loved this technique immediately. Her phrase was, "I am learning." She took a moment, breathed, and expanded it. "I am learning to stay calm when I speak." Then she expanded again. "I am learning to stay calm when I speak because it helps me remember more." The group leader nodded with encouragement. Lila felt her confidence rise naturally. Next, the leader introduced a partner activity. Each learner was paired with someone to practice short, meaningful exchanges. Lila was paired with a kind-looking man named Daniel, who was also learning English. They both smiled, knowing they were in the same journey. Daniel spoke first. He said, "I take my time when I speak English." Lila repeated the phrase in her mind. Natural repetition. She responded softly, "I take my time too." Then she added, "It helps me feel calm." Daniel nodded with understanding. Their conversation was simple, but it flowed naturally. Daniel asked, "What helps you learn English better?" Lila paused, remembering her principles. She answered, "I create meaning when I learn. When I connect a phrase to a feeling or a moment, I remember it longer." Daniel smiled and said, "That is a good idea. I want to try that." The conversation continued gently. They talked about their daily routines, their favorite simple English phrases, and the small steps they were taking to improve. Lila listened intentionally, noticing the rhythm of his words, the pauses, the natural expressions. She felt herself understanding deeply, not through force, but through presence. At one point, Daniel said, "Sometimes I feel nervous when I speak." Lila nodded. She understood this well. She replied, "I feel nervous too, but I try to stay present. I try to enjoy the process." Her voice was soft, but sincere. Daniel took a breath and repeated, "Enjoy the process. That is good. I will remember that." Lila felt a quiet sense of pride. She had shared something meaningful. She had helped another learner grow. After the partner session ended, the group leader introduced one final exercise, meaningful repetition. Each person would choose one phrase they learned today. Repeat it slowly 3 times, then explain why it mattered to them. Lila chose her phrase carefully. She whispered, "Progress over perfection." Then she repeated it again, "Progress over perfection." And one more time, "Progress over perfection." When the leader asked her to explain, Lila spoke from the heart. She said, "This phrase helps me stay calm. I do not need to be perfect. I just need to grow little by little. It makes learning feel lighter. It makes me remember better." The group nodded gently. Her explanation felt true and meaningful. After the session ended, Lila walked home, feeling light, proud, and inspired. She had spoken English with real people. She had listened, shared, and connected. More importantly, she had practiced without judgment. She had allowed herself to be imperfect and brave. When she arrived home, she opened her notebook and wrote, "Today I became a real English speaker." It was not about grammar. It was not about vocabulary lists. It was about courage, connection, and presence. She read the sentence again and felt it settle into her memory like a soft stone sinking into a calm river. Before going to bed, she whispered to herself, "I am proud of my progress." She closed her eyes, feeling grateful for her journey. In the next part, we will follow Lila as she discovers new techniques for listening, learns how to build natural fluency through storytelling, and continues strengthening her long-term memory with emotional connection and mindful practice. That evening, after returning from the community center, Lila felt a renewed energy flowing through her mind. She prepared a cup of warm tea, sat by her window, and opened her notebook. The city outside was quiet, the lights glowing softly, like tiny signals guiding her forward. She felt that something inside her had shifted. She no longer saw English as something stressful, heavy, or difficult. She now saw it as a journey of presence, connection, and curiosity. She remembered what Amelia once said in the MindFlow English podcast. Learning English is not a race. It is a rhythm. It is something you grow with, slowly, gently, meaningfully. Tonight, Lila wanted to learn this rhythm more deeply. She decided to try a technique she had heard about but never practiced fully before: story-based memory building. She learned that when you attach English phrases to stories, the brain remembers them more easily because stories activate emotion, imagery, and imagination. They create moments that the mind wants to keep. So she opened a clean page and wrote at the top, "Story Practice." She whispered the words like a soft instruction. She wanted to create a simple story using the phrases she learned today. Nothing complicated, just meaningful sentences connected to real feelings. She began writing slowly. "Today I learned to speak with calm. Today I learned to breathe before I speak. Today I learned to focus on progress, not perfection." As she wrote, she realized something powerful. She was not just practicing English, she was shaping a story about who she was becoming. She added another line, "I am learning to enjoy the process. I am learning to stay present when I listen." The sentences flowed naturally. Her story was simple, but full of gentle truth. She could feel each phrase connecting to a memory, an emotion, a small victory. And this connection made the words feel alive. After finishing her short story, she read it aloud. Not too fast, not too slow, just present. She felt a calm satisfaction settle inside her. This was a technique she wanted to practice every day. Later that night, she prepared for another kind of exercise, mindful listening. She wanted to train her brain to recognize natural English patterns without stress. She put on her headphones and played a simple English podcast episode. She kept the volume low and the room quiet. But this time, she decided to follow a new approach. She did not try to translate. She did not try to understand every word. She just listened to the rhythm of the sentences, the pauses, the rise and fall of the host's voice, the natural flow. She noticed something surprising. When she stopped forcing herself to understand everything, she understood more. Her brain relaxed, her ears opened, and she absorbed the English as if it were gentle waves rolling in and out. After a few minutes, She paused the podcast and spoke softly. I listen with presence. These 4 words reminded her of a new skill she was building. Listening is not about perfect comprehension. Listening is about staying calm and connected to the moment. She practiced shadowing next. She played a short sentence from the podcast and repeated it out loud. At first, her voice felt a little shaky, but then she tried again and again. She listened, paused, repeated, not perfectly, just naturally. And after several repetitions, she noticed that her voice matched the rhythm a little more each time. She realized something important. When she shadowed with calm, her brain remembered longer. It felt natural. It felt almost effortless. She wrote in her notebook, shadow with calm, not pressure. Listen for rhythm, not perfection. These reminders felt like small treasures she wanted to keep forever. Just before going to sleep, Lila decided to test her long-term memory using a new method she learned. Emotional recall. She closed her eyes and asked herself one simple question. What moment today made me feel proud? Immediately, an image came to her mind. Her introducing herself confidently at the community center. She smiled softly. She whispered the sentence she used earlier. My name is Lila, and I am learning English every day. This sentence now carried emotion, pride, and bravery. And because of that, it would stay in her memory much longer. The next morning, sunlight warmed her room again. She woke up and felt ready for something new. Today, she wanted to learn how to expand her fluency through storytelling practices. Not complicated stories, just simple narratives that help her think in English without translating. She remembered a technique Amelia once taught in a MindFlow English episode called micro-story building. It is a simple method where you build a story in small steps, one sentence at a time. Each sentence grows naturally from the last. No pressure, no rush, just small meaningful additions. Lila wanted to try this. She picked a simple topic, a morning routine. She began writing, I wake up early. Then she added, I make a warm cup of tea. She paused, visualized the scene, and continued, I sit by the window and listen to the quiet morning. The story started forming gently. She realized that when she imagined each moment, she remembered the sentences easily. Memory grew from imagery. Language grew from emotion. She felt her mind opening in a peaceful way. She continued the story softly. I take a deep breath and feel calm. I start my day with simple English practice. I speak slowly and confidently. With each sentence, she felt her fluency unfolding, like petals of a flower opening in morning light. This method felt natural, light, enjoyable, and it made her feel proud of her progress. After finishing her micro-story, she read it aloud. Her voice was steady, relaxed, warm. She realized that stories are one of the most powerful tools for learning. Stories make language meaningful. They create emotional memory, and they help the brain remember forever. She took another moment to breathe deeply and whispered her daily affirmation. I remember what matters. I learn with presence. I speak with calm. She felt these words settle gently inside her, like seeds waiting to grow. In the next part, we will follow Lila as she discovers how to expand her English fluency through daily routines, creativity, and consistent habits that build long-term memory. She will also learn how to think in English naturally and express herself with growing confidence. The sun rose quietly the next morning, casting a soft golden glow across Lila's room. She stretched lightly and sat up with a sense of calm focus. Something about her English journey was beginning to feel different now. Not heavy, not full of pressure. Instead, it felt like a gentle rhythm guiding her forward day by day. Today, she wanted to explore a deeper skill, learning to think in English naturally. She had heard Amelia talk about it many times on the MindFlow English podcast. Amelia often said, thinking in English does not begin with big, complex sentences. It begins with small, simple thoughts, created gently and consistently. Lila wanted to try this. She sat by the window, with her notebook rested on her lap. She took a breath and let her mind become quiet. Then she looked around her room and allowed her thoughts to form in English, slowly and simply. She looked at her cup of tea and whispered, "This tea is warm." She looked at the morning light and said, "The sun is soft today." She placed her hand on her notebook and said, "This notebook helps me grow." The sentences were simple, but they were in English, and more importantly, they came naturally. She wasn't translating. She wasn't forcing herself. She was letting English appear gently in her mind, like soft footsteps on a calm path. She remembered one of Amelia's core techniques: label your world. When you name things around you in English, you train your brain to think in English without effort. So she continued looking around her room, naming objects softly: window, chair, pillow, book, pen. Each word felt like a small step, a tiny seed planting itself in her memory. After a few minutes, she started forming short thoughts. My room is quiet. The morning feels peaceful. I am ready to learn. Each thought came more easily than the last. She realized that thinking in English did not require perfection. It required presence. Later that morning, Lila decided to strengthen her fluency by expanding her thoughts into small spoken routines. She chose a simple activity, preparing breakfast. As she moved through the kitchen, she spoke short sentences out loud. I open the fridge. I take the milk. I pour it slowly. I make toast. I feel calm. Speaking while acting helped her brain connect English to real-life actions. This made the language more memorable and natural. She took a bite of her toast and said, "This is warm and nice." She smiled at how simple the sentence was, yet how satisfying it felt to express it in English without fear. She realized that daily routines were the perfect place to practice speaking. No pressure, no mistakes to fear, just natural learning. After breakfast, Lila wanted to work on her listening skills again. This time, she wanted to train what Amelia called active calm listening. It's a method where you listen with curiosity, not tension. Lila put on her headphones and played another simple English podcast episode. She listened to the tone, the pauses, the natural expressions. She did not try to understand everything. Instead, she repeated one sentence she found meaningful. You learn more when you stay calm. She paused the audio and repeated it slowly 3 times. She smiled. This sentence felt true. After listening for several minutes, she switched to an even more powerful technique. Listen and visualize. She listened to a simple story on the podcast and imagined the scenes in her mind. She saw the characters. She imagined the setting. She pictured their actions. This helped her understand and remember much more easily. Next, Lila wanted to practice the technique Amelia often called 1-minute English. It was simple. Talk in English for 1 minute without stopping. It didn't matter if the sentences were simple. It didn't matter if she repeated words. The goal was to keep the flow. She took a breath and began. Today I am practicing English. I am learning slowly and calmly. I want to think in English more. I am practicing listening, speaking, and writing. I enjoy my small progress. I feel proud of myself today. When the minute ended, she felt a warm sense of accomplishment wash over her. She had done it. She had spoken continuously in English without fear. She decided to write a reflection in her notebook. I spoke for 1 minute today. It felt good. I can do it again tomorrow. Her words were simple, but they held meaning. Meaning creates memory. Later in the afternoon, she opened a new page and began practicing what Amelia called creative switching. This technique involves switching between simple English thoughts and short English questions. It strengthened both thinking and speaking skills. She wrote a thought, I feel calm today. Then she wrote a question. What helps me stay calm? She answered, my slow practice. Then another question. What did I learn today? She answered, I learned to think in English. The exercise felt natural and reflective. She felt her English becoming more flexible, more adaptable. As evening approached, Lila wanted to end the day with a technique she had recently begun to love: emotional anchoring. She chose one meaningful sentence she learned today and connected it to a positive feeling. Her sentence was, I learn gently. She closed her eyes and repeated the sentence 3 times. I learn gently. I learn gently. I learn gently. She connected the sentence to a feeling of peace in her chest. This connection made the sentence feel like a warm memory. She knew she would remember it easily. Before going to sleep, Lila wrote a final reflection. Today, English felt natural. Today, English felt like a part of my mind. Today, I learned with calm, presence, and curiosity. She whispered her final affirmation. I think in English little by little. I grow every day. She felt these words settle into her heart, like soft light filling a warm room. In the next part, we will follow Lila as she learns how to build long-term fluency using habits, routines, and confidence-building techniques. She will also discover how to express more complex thoughts while staying calm and natural. Lila woke the next day with a gentle sense of progress resting inside her, as if her mind had taken all her small steps and quietly transformed them into something steady and meaningful. She sat up slowly, letting the morning air settle around her, and she felt a soft excitement. Today, she wanted to take her English learning even further. Today, she wanted to strengthen her long-term fluency by building habits that would stay with her for years, not just days. She remembered something Amelia had once said on the MindFlow English podcast. Fluency is not built in one moment. Fluency is built in small, repeated moments that shape your brain gently over time. This reminder encouraged her. She did not need to rush. She just needed consistency. She began her morning with a routine she now loved: simple English thoughts. She looked around her room and whispered, I feel calm this morning. She picked up her notebook and said, I am ready to learn. She walked to the kitchen and added, I will practice slowly today. These sentences were small, but they trained her mind to think in English before her day even began. After breakfast, she wanted to focus on long-term memory. She sat at her desk and opened to a fresh page in her notebook titled Memory Habits. She wrote her first habit, review with purpose. She knew that reviewing without meaning felt empty, but reviewing with intention helped her remember longer. She reviewed her phrases from yesterday. I learn gently. I think in English. I stay calm when I listen. Instead of simply reading them, she connected each sentence to a moment from her day. This made the phrases feel alive and memorable. She learned that memory grows when emotion and experience are present. Her second habit was speak small, speak daily. She realized that she did not need long conversations to improve. Even short daily English moments helped her brain grow stronger. She stood up, walked around the room, and narrated her actions softly. I open the window. I breathe the morning air. I feel the sunlight. I start my day with confidence. These small daily sentences gave her a growing sense of fluency, like she was building English into the very structure of her routine. Next, she practiced a habit she had heard Amelia explain many times: daily micro-listening. This technique involved listening to a very short piece of English audio every day, not for long duration, but for deep presence. She put on her headphones and played a 30-second clip from a podcast. She listened with calm attention. Then she replayed the clip and focused on one meaningful sentence. The host said, "Your progress grows when your mind feels safe." She repeated the sentence quietly, then again, then one more time. The words felt gentle and true. The idea touched her deeply because she had felt this change herself. When she stopped putting pressure on herself, she remembered more, understood more, and even enjoyed more. After her listening practice, Lila decided to use a new technique she'd been curious about: expansion journaling. It was a method for growing her fluency through simple writing. She began with one small sentence: "I learned something new today." Then she expanded it: "I learned something new today about how my mind remembers English." Then she expanded again: "I learned something new today about how my mind remembers English when I learn slowly and connect my feelings to my practice." With each expansion, her fluency grew naturally. She did not force complicated grammar. She simply allowed the sentence to expand in gentle steps. After journaling, she felt calm and inspired. She realized that fluency comes from expanding small thoughts, not jumping to difficult expressions. She whispered softly, "Small steps create big growth." The sentence felt warm inside her chest. Later that afternoon, Lila wanted to build her speaking confidence. She decided to practice a technique Amelia called calm response training. This technique involved answering simple questions with calm, slow, meaningful sentences. She prepared a list of questions in her notebook and answered them out loud. What did I learn today? I learned to grow my fluency through small habits. How do I feel about my progress? I feel peaceful and proud. What will I practice tomorrow? I will practice thinking in English more often. Each answer felt relaxed and natural. She wasn't trying to sound perfect. She was focusing on clarity, presence, and connection to her meaning. This made the experience enjoyable rather than stressful. As the afternoon sunlight softened, Lila decided to practice another technique that Amelia often encouraged: emotional storytelling. She closed her eyes and imagined a moment from her life that made her feel grateful. She pictured herself walking near a small lake in her hometown. The water was calm. The trees were quiet. The moment felt peaceful. Then she began to describe the scene in simple English. I am walking near the lake. The water is calm. The wind is soft. I feel peaceful. She opened her eyes and smiled. She had just created an English memory connected to a real feeling. This type of storytelling strengthened her long-term memory because it combined language and emotion. After dinner, Lila wanted to do one final practice: Clarity speaking. She stood in front of a mirror, took a calm breath, and spoke slowly. I am becoming more confident every day. I remember more because I learn with calm. I grow when I take small steps. She watched her reflection and saw a gentle confidence she had never noticed before. She didn't see a perfect English speaker. She saw a brave learner who showed up every day with presence and curiosity. Finally, she wrote her evening reflection. Today I built my fluency through habits. Today I made English part of my life. Today I practiced with calm intention. The simple words filled her with pride. She whispered her nightly affirmation. I grow little by little, and every day matters. She closed her eyes, knowing she was building not just English skills, but a whole new way of learning. Gentle, mindful, powerful. In the next part, we will follow Lila as she begins creating her own personal English system, develops confidence in longer conversations, and learns how to express deeper ideas with clarity and calm. The next morning arrived quietly, carrying with it a feeling of gentle transformation. Lila woke with a calm sense of purpose, as if the many small steps she had taken were beginning to form something larger, something meaningful, something lasting. She stretched softly and smiled to herself. Today felt different. Today felt like a day of clarity. She sat up, opened her notebook, and looked through the pages she had written over the past days. Every sentence, every reflection, every small moment of courage told the story of her growth. She traced her finger along the lines and whispered, I am building something real. She understood now that English was no longer a subject she studied. It was slowly becoming part of her life. Today, Lila wanted to take an important step forward. She wanted to create her own personal English system. She didn't want a complicated plan. She wanted something simple, gentle, and consistent. Something that fit her deeply. Something she could love, not fear. She opened a clean page and wrote at the top, My English System. She took a deep breath, then wrote the first pillar, Gentle Daily Thinking. She knew this was her foundation. Thinking in English, even with simple thoughts, helped her natural fluency grow every day. Below the heading, she wrote examples. I feel calm. I am learning today. I take small steps. These simple thoughts kept her connected to English without stress. The second pillar she wrote was meaningful listening. She remembered how much calmer she felt when she listened without pressure, without trying to understand everything at once. She wrote, listen with presence. Choose one sentence to remember. Repeat with calm. She knew this method helped her remember longer and understand deeper. Her third pillar was small daily speaking. She wrote, speak for 1 minute, narrate simple actions, practice calm responses. For the first time, she felt like she had real control over her learning. Not through force, but through gentle consistency. Her system felt personal, warm, and encouraging. Her fourth pillar was emotional memory. She had discovered how powerful emotions were in learning. When she connected a sentence to a feeling, it stayed with her. She wrote, feel the words, create moments, make language meaningful. This pillar made her English learning feel alive. Her fifth pillar was micro-writing. She loved expanding small sentences, journaling, and telling tiny stories from her daily life. She wrote, write one simple sentence, expand slowly, connect to your day. This technique relaxed her mind and helped her speak more naturally. When she finished writing her 5 pillars, she read them again slowly. They weren't complicated. They weren't overwhelming. They were gentle, simple, and deeply effective. She whispered, "This is my way," and she felt a sense of ownership she had never felt before in her learning journey. Later that morning, Lila wanted to practice longer speaking. She imagined a future moment when she might have a real conversation in English with someone abroad, someone friendly, someone curious. She wanted to prepare herself, not by memorizing phrases, but by feeling calm and natural. She practiced what Amelia called slow flow speaking. She started with a simple thought, "I enjoy learning English." Then she expanded it slowly. "I enjoy learning English because it helps me grow." Then again, "I enjoy learning English because it helps me grow, and I feel proud of my progress." She felt the flow, the rhythm, the calm. Her sentences became longer, not because she forced them, but because they grew gently like branches on a tree. Next, she practiced deep idea expression. She took a topic, her favorite way to learn, and explained it in simple English. "I learn best when I stay calm. Calm helps me remember. Calm helps me enjoy. When I learn with calm, I understand more." She smiled. It felt natural. She was expressing real ideas in simple sentences, and that was enough. In the afternoon, Lila wanted to challenge herself with a longer conversation simulation. She created a list of gentle questions and answered them aloud, as if she were speaking with a supportive friend. "What is helping you the most right now?" "I am helped by my small habits. They make me feel safe and confident." "Why do you enjoy learning English?" "I enjoy it because it opens my mind. It connects me to new people and new ideas." "What do you want to improve next?" "I want to speak more naturally and trust my thoughts in English." Each response flowed more smoothly than she expected. She wasn't perfect, but she was present. She felt proud. Later, while taking a walk outside, she practiced a powerful technique Amelia often taught, real-world thinking. Instead of translating what she saw, she simply described it in English in her mind. "The sky's soft today. The wind feels cool. People are walking quietly. I feel relaxed. I am thinking in English." This practice helped her brain build deeper connections. Thinking in English outside, in real life, made her feel like English was becoming part of her natural world. When she returned home, she wanted to finish her day with an exercise that had become one of her favorites, memory anchoring. She chose one sentence from her day and connected it to a strong emotion. Today's sentence was, "I grow every day." She closed her eyes and repeated it 3 times. She imagined herself months from now, speaking English confidently and calmly. She allowed pride to fill her heart. This emotional connection made the sentence unforgettable. As the evening settled, Lila wrote her final reflection of the day. "Today I created my own English system. Today I spoke with calm. Today I learned to trust my progress." She closed her notebook slowly, feeling a deep sense of peace. Then she whispered her closing affirmation. "I am becoming fluent through kindness, presence, and small steps." She felt the words settle softly inside her, like a final warm breath at the end of a meaningful day. With this, Lila's journey reached a new beginning, not an ending, a beginning filled with confidence, clarity, and calm mastery. She was no longer just learning English. She was becoming an English thinker, an English communicator, a gentle, growing, confident version of herself. The next morning arrived with a gentle brightness, and Lila felt a calm energy as she woke. She lay still for a moment, breathing softly, feeling the quiet confidence she had built through her journey. She realized something meaningful. She no longer doubted her ability to learn English. She no longer feared mistakes. She no longer pushed herself with pressure. Instead, she had learned to guide herself with calm curiosity, steady habits, and gentle confidence. Today felt like a special day, a day to gather everything she had learned, a day to recognize how far she had come, a day to step into a new chapter of her English journey with courage and clarity. She sat at her desk, opened her notebook, and flipped through the pages. Every page told a story of small steps, a story of gentle learning, a story of growth, a story of presence. She touched the pages with a soft smile. These words were not just English practice. They were moments of her becoming. Today, she wanted to create something final and special. Her English Growth Manifesto. Not strict rules, not heavy goals, just gentle reminders that would stay with her every day, guiding her forward with kindness and consistency. She opened a clean page and wrote at the top, "My English Growth Manifesto." She took a deep breath and wrote the first principle, "I learn with calm." She knew this truth deeply. Calm learning helped her listen better, understand deeper, and remember longer. Calm learning made her feel safe and confident. Her second principle flowed easily. "I grow with small steps." She smiled because she now understood the power of small steps. They were not weak. They were steady. They were strong. They were real progress. Her third principle was, "I create meaning." She remembered how emotional connections helped her remember new phrases and ideas. She learned that meaning made her memory come alive. Her fourth principle was, "I trust my progress." She wrote it slowly, feeling the truth in every word. She trusted her journey now. She trusted her small improvements. She trusted her growing fluency. The fifth principle was, "I speak without fear." She added, "I speak slowly. I speak clearly. I speak bravely." She touched the words gently. She remembered the first time she introduced herself at the community center. That simple moment had changed everything. Her sixth principle was, "I think in English naturally." She had learned to describe her world in English, whispering simple thoughts that gradually grew more natural. Thinking in English had become a part of her day, like breathing in a calm rhythm. Her final principle was the one she loved most. "I enjoy my journey." She knew now that enjoyment was not something extra. It was essential. Enjoying her English practice made her mind open, made her memory stronger, and made her heart feel connected to her learning. When she finished writing, she read her manifesto aloud. Her voice was steady, warm, confident. She felt a deep sense of gratitude. This was her English identity now. Gentle, calm, growing. She had created a personal path that would stay with her for life. Later that morning, she wanted to celebrate her journey by doing something new. She decided to record a short English message to herself. She turned on the recorder on her phone, took a breath, and spoke. "Hello, this is Lila. I want to tell myself something important. I am proud of my progress. I am learning every day. I speak with calm. I grow slowly and steadily. I trust myself. I am becoming fluent because I am gentle with my mind. I enjoy this journey. I believe in myself." She stopped the recording and listened back to it, hearing her own voice in English, speaking with confidence and calm, filled her with joyful surprise. She felt a soft warmth in her chest. She was no longer the same learner she used to be. She was becoming the English speaker she always wanted to be: calm, present, expressive, and confident. In the afternoon, Lila took a quiet walk through a peaceful park near her home. She practiced real-world thinking again. The trees are beautiful today. The sky feels open. My steps feel light. I am learning every day. She felt proud. She felt connected to her surroundings through English, and it felt natural and gentle. She found a quiet bench under a tree and sat down. She closed her eyes and practiced her final technique of the day: future self-visualization. She imagined herself months from now, speaking English fluently, expressing ideas clearly, participating in conversations with ease, learning joyfully, helping others who were on the same journey. She saw herself smiling, confident, calm, expressive. She whispered softly, "I am becoming her," step by step. As the evening sunlight softened and the day came to a peaceful close, Lila returned home, feeling calm and strong. She opened her notebook one last time and wrote her final reflection: "This journey changed me. I learned to trust myself. I learned to stay calm. I learned to think in English. I learned to speak without fear. I learned to enjoy every step. I am proud of myself, and I will continue growing every day, gently and confidently." She closed the notebook slowly, holding it close to her chest. She smiled deeply, knowing that her English learning was not ending. This was simply the beginning of a new, empowered chapter. Before going to sleep, she whispered her final affirmation: "I am ready for my future. I am ready for my next level. I am ready to grow, slowly and beautifully." Her eyes closed peacefully, and she felt a quiet joy rise within her. Lila had not only learned English, she had learned how to learn. She had learned how to grow, and she had learned how to be gentle and confident with herself. Her journey was now a story of presence, courage, and calm mastery, a story she would carry with her forever. If you want an epilogue, a closing narration, a final message from Amelia, or a summary to end your full YouTube video, I can write that too. Thank you so much for spending this time learning with me. Keep practicing every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Your effort will bring big results over time. And most importantly, enjoy the journey. You are not just learning English, you are becoming an English speaker. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the MindFlow English, and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss future lessons. I'll see you in the next practice. Keep believing in yourself and keep speaking with confidence.